Have you ever wanted something so badly, but fear stopped you before you even got started? If you've ever felt that way, I'd like you to know that this girl, fear has stopped me more times than I would like to admit.
Hi there, I'm Sherry Brody, and after more than 40 years working behind the chair, I've learned that success doesn't come from luck. It comes from a lot of faith, perseverance, and courage to keep showing up when life gets messy. Almost 15 years ago, I lost everything. I had to rebuild everything from the ground up, my life, my career, and my confidence. There were moments I wanted to quit, but by God's grace, I found the strength to cut through it, one step, one prayer, one haircut at a time. That's what this podcast is all about. Cutting through it is where we get real about what it takes to build a successful career and a life behind the chair that actually works. So if you're ready to stop doubting yourself, strengthen your skills, and build a business rooted in faith, purpose, and truth, you're in the right place, my friend. This is Cutting Through It, where we don't just talk about hair. We talk about life, growth, and everything it takes to become the hairstylist and the person God created you to be.
And in today's episode, I'm going to tell you the story of the fear that almost stopped me from becoming the hairstylist, the woman, and the coach that I am today. I really want you to hear this so that you know that you're not alone and you can move even when fear tries to hold you back. I was 19 years old, already married, living in a super tiny town. You know, one of those towns you drive through and you think, how do people survive here? Like there was one street. I remember driving into that town that day and looking around and thinking, oh, wow, where am I going to find a place to work? When I started looking around for a place to practice my hair, there was only like these little, I call them sweaty betties. What I mean by that, there was just like these little mobile homes that were just kind of thrown together. And it's not like today where people will put things together in their house or really fancy up a she shed. No, I'm telling you, it was not for me. This was a time where this is a town that didn't have really any modernization to it. I felt like I had stepped back in time. I remember thinking to myself, you know what, this is where my career ends. I'm like, what am I going to do? I started applying at Wendy's and fast food places. Well, I soon realized that the owner of the home that we had rented from, he was a barber at the time. But I was so young in my career. He never said barber. He said hair. I do hair. And he said, hey, there's a new little mini mall that's going in, and I'm opening a shop, and I'd love for you to work for me. And you know, at the time, what other options did I have? I was like, okay. And I remember going to work there, and I ended up working in this barbershop. His name was Cookie. He looked like, I'll never forget him because he looked like a cartoon character with like a pipe hanging out his mouth, and he was skinny and he wore a top hat and he had a long beard. He was a super nice guy. But he taught me all about pipes and tobacco, and I started cutting old men's hair. And let me tell you, I did learn something. Men gossip as much as women, just want you to know. And I almost started smoking a pipe. OMG. Now, there's something that I want to share with you that we only had one car, my husband and I. So he took the car and I always walked to work. Now, this barbershop that I was working in, it was at the far end of this mini mart. I think there was probably maybe about 10 stores, and everybody in the town was excited about it. Well, one day when I was walking past one of the stores, I caught a glimpse of somebody inside, and I look and I realize, oh my gosh, and I stop and I look in wonder because it was a salon, a hair salon. And there were two guys in there working, and for a moment, I thought, oh, I should go in. And then they looked up at me, and I really, really quickly turned away and walked away because fear hit me. Insecurity hit me. I thought, oh gosh, they looked really cool. They looked really hip. And just thought in my head, I thought, why would they want me? It's just me. I don't really have any experience. So every day when I would go to work, I would walk past that salon. And right before I would get to the salon, like my heart would start beating and I would be both mixed of excitement, like, oh, I'd love to work there. I really wanted to work there. But this fear, this insecurity of mine, it was talking louder. And I remember I would walk up to it and I would look, and if they looked at me, I'd just keep walking by because I didn't believe in myself. Well, one day my husband called and he said, hey, I'm going to pick you up for lunch. And I said, okay. So he picked me up and I got in the car and he drove down 4 stores and he stopped in front of the door. And I said, what are you doing? And he says, Sherry, this is where you belong. You need to go in there. And I have to say that was probably the kindest thing he did. I remember opening the door to the car because inside I knew that was where I needed to be. I remember getting out of the car and my legs were like jello. And I told myself, you could do this. So I walk up to the door and I went to grab the door and it just was so scared. I wheeled myself to open that door and I opened it. Look, I stepped inside and I remember Michael looking up because there was 2 guys that owned it, Michael and Randy. He looked at me and he gave me the biggest smile and he looked over at Randy and he said, hey, look who's here. And Randy looked up at me and they said, we've been waiting for you. I was stunned. And I couldn't believe it. I said, you have? And they said, yes, we have watched you walk by every day and we were hoping you'd stop in. And I thought in that moment, I'm like, they were expecting me. They were watching me. They believed in me long before I even believed in myself. Well, that day changed the whole trajectory of my career. Michael and Randy, they took me under their wing. They apprenticed me. They trained me. They challenged me more than I've ever been challenged. They spoke into my life. They were the first people who showed me what was possible in this industry as a hairstylist. That moment, that doorway became a pivot point in my entire career. So today I want to share with you what fear really is. That day, that experience, when I look back at that, there are so many opportunities in my life that I let go because of fear. And that's been a lot of years since then. And I know just from apprenticing other hairstylists and coaching many hairstylists that we all struggle with fear and insecurities. And, the first thing I want to share with you is that fear, it's a form of protection that we do for ourselves. Fear isn't usually a sign you are not supposed to do something. It's really your nervous system trying to protect you from pain. It's your past telling you stories that aren't true anymore. Something about me is when as a child, I didn't fit in. I was a misfit. I was born with a leg that turned in. And so I walked funny and I had to wear these corrective shoes. They were the ugliest things ever. I might tell you now that my mother would say that I still like ugly shoes, but I think they're cool. And I had to wear a brace on my legs at night to correct them. And not only was that something that caused me to be a misfit, but I also had a lazy eye. So I had to wear glasses and I had to wear a patch on one eye. I was the youngest of 4 girls. And one of my sisters was special needs. And so my parents were very strapped for time. And so instead of having to take care of all of our long hair, my mother took me to the barber and had my hair cut short. So I really, really, really was a misfit. And I think as a children, depending on the experiences we have and the things that are told to us, I think those get stuck in our subconscious and they take hold. And for me, that day, the reason I didn't want to step through those doors to that salon was because I felt like I'll never fit in. I don't want to be made fun of. I don't want to feel that way again. And so I let those voices in my head and I let fear control me. The second thing I want to share with you is that fear often means that you're on the right path. Sometimes fear isn't a stop sign. It's confirmation that you're stepping into something bigger. So like if you are been thinking or dreaming about something, but fear is holding you back, I encourage you to stop and really look at it and really analyze, what is it that you're afraid of? So today I want to give you 3 simple steps that you can actually use today that'll help you move past being scared. The first one is name it. Say it out loud. Say this sentence, I am scared because blank. When you can name the fear, it takes the power away. Like in that instance, I am scared of rejection. I am scared of being made fun of. I am scared of failure. The second one is check your source. Is the fear you're feeling, is it coming from something really substantial? I mean, could you lose your life doing this? Is it unhealthy for you? That's different. Or is this a fear of something that's old, a voice from your past, your subconscious protecting you? Where is this fear coming from? If you can sit down and take some time and name the fear and then think about is what this fear is coming from. Is this something that's really protecting my health? Is it something that's really a good fear? Or is this a fear that is coming from the ghosts of my past, of my old beliefs? The third step that I want to share is take the smallest step, no matter how small it is, take a step forward. Doesn't mean you're not going to be fearless. Because that day when I opened that door, and I can go back to that moment, I remember it was freezing cold that day. It was snowy. It was cold. And I remember grabbing a hold of that front door, and it was cold in my hand, and I just couldn't even breathe. But I forced myself to open the door and look up and take that first step. And that's all it took. You just have to take that step and you just have to move. And when I look back on that door, when I opened it and I looked up and I saw that I was standing in this beautiful salon and there was Michael and Randy looking at me. I had no idea. But as I look back today, opening that door, it was the step that changed my whole life and my whole career. But I didn't make that step without fear. And sometimes, you guys, the step 4 is you've got to borrow belief from somebody else. Sometimes when you don't believe in yourself, you need to borrow the belief from someone who does. My husband at the time, he saw something in me and he believed in me. And that's why he made me walk through that door. The 2 men that I hadn't even met yet, they believed in me before they even met me. They saw something in me. And that was all that I needed to begin. So those are the 4 steps. You want to name it and say it out loud. And then check the source. Where's this fear coming from? And then take the smallest step forward. Even if it isn't fear, do it. And then sometimes you just need to borrow that belief that someone else has in you. There's a verse that just comes to my mind when I think about this, when I talk about borrowing a belief. There's a verse from the Bible that is 2 Timothy 1:7, and it says, "For God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." Guys, this spirit is the Holy Spirit. And if you're a believer, that Holy Spirit lives in you. And that Holy Spirit believes in you. And back then, although I was a believer, I wasn't really walking with him, but he was walking with me, and he put things and people and things in my path to put me on the path that he had intended me for. And you've got to remember that Satan, he's our enemy, and he uses fear to keep us from stepping into what God created you and I to be. So I encourage you to look up that verse and really think about it. There's something else I want to share with you before we close, and that is a book that might help you. As I was writing the notes for this episode, I was reminded of a book that was recommended to me that I read that really changed a lot for me. And it's a book by Brené Brown. It's spelled Brene Brown. And the book is called Daring Greatly. And I felt like I really needed to share this with you because that day was the first time that I really stepped through fear, that I can remember that I really started having courage and stepping through it. But there was so much more that I had to walk through in my life. There were so many things that happened to me later in my life and decisions I made that led me down paths that were very painful. And I know that I went down these paths and made decisions in my life because I was still letting fear and my past voices and insecurities guide me. When I read her book, there's a few quotes that I want to share with you that really helped me. And one of them is, vulnerability is not weakness, it's courage. That day that I went through the door, I was feeling very vulnerable and weak, but it did take courage for me to step through that door. And that was just a very small door. I don't know what you're facing today, but it takes some courage. And the biggest thing that I think that really is the core of fear too, is shame. Shame is the fear of not being enough. It's the result of old recordings and old words that are programmed into us as kids, experiences that we've had, the culture around us, the things that we were told as a child. When I was young, I just never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I fit in. I was always saying the wrong thing. I was told I was talking too much, and now here I am on a podcast. We can't get to courage without walking through vulnerability. That's another quote that she has. And I share it with you because you've got to step over fear, grab courage, step over fear to get where you want to be. And sometimes it's just small steps, guys. But I'm here to tell you, 40 years later, I've had such a successful career, and this career has sustained me and pulled me out of so much. And it's the reason why I'm here talking to you on this podcast. Hey guys, if fear has ever held you back behind the chair, keeping you from raising your prices, maybe switching salon environments that you're in, posting your work online, or a big one is going after clients, the clients you truly want to work on, I want you to know something, that you do not have to do this alone. You really don't. I'd love for you to visit my website, onpointhairbysherry.com. And just so you know, Sherry is spelled Sherri. And go on there and sign up for my On Point Pro Tips newsletter. That way you can get encouragement and practical guidance in your inbox every single week from me, somebody who has walked through it and come out the other side. And while you're there, I'd love for you to take a minute, explore the education I offer, because guys, this is just the beginning. I'm growing, and this podcast is growing, and I would love nothing more than for you to grow right along with me.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with me today on Cutting Through It. I hope today inspired you. I hope that it gave you some clarity and confidence, but most importantly, I hope it gave you the courage to keep going. Because you, my friend, you're not meant to do this journey alone as a hairstylist. If this episode lit something up in you, would you hit the subscribe button? But most importantly, let me know by leaving me a review. And also, I have another favor to ask. Will you share this with another hairstylist who you know that might need a little boost today? Your words help this message from this podcast reach more hairstylists who need it. And if you want to dive a bit deeper with me and learn about all the free resources I have, head over to my website at onpointhairbysherry.com. Until next time, stay faithful, stay focused, and stay on point. And never, never forget that your clients, they'll remember more about how you made them feel than anything else at all. Have a blessed day.